history is written by the victors. It's a phrase we hear all the time. But what happens when the victor's goal isn't just to win, but to erase? To so utterly annihilate an enemy that future generations wonder if they ever existed at all? This isn't a hypothetical. It's the story of a lost kingdom, a forgotten people, and the final, most brutal act of one of history's greatest conquerors, Genghis Khan. Before their name became a whisper, they were a powerhouse. For nearly 200 years, from 1038 to 1227, the Western Xia Dynasty was a major player on the world stage. Known to their own people as the Great Xia and to the Tibetans as the Minyak, they were a multi-ethnic state, led by a people of Tibeto-Burman origin called the Tanguts. Their empire wasn't some dusty backwater kingdom. It controlled one of the most strategic pieces of real estate on the planet, the Hexi Corridor, a vital artery of the legendary Silk Road. This 1,000-kilometer-long passage was the main gateway between Central Asia and northern China. Controlling it meant controlling trade, wealth, and the flow of ideas. At its height, the Western Xia Empire spanned over 800,000 square kilometers, encompassing parts of modern-day north-central China. But the Tanguts were more than just gatekeepers. They were innovators who forged a unique and vibrant culture, a dazzling fusion of Tibetan, Chinese, and their own nomadic traditions. Their achievements in literature, art, and architecture were so impressive that some contemporary observers described their kingdom as shining and sparkling. Perhaps their most singular achievement was creating their own incredibly complex writing system. Established around 1036, the Tangut script was not an adaptation of Chinese characters, but a completely new invention, designed to capture the sounds of their language. It was a monumental undertaking, a bold declaration of their unique identity in a world dominated by the cultural gravity of their neighbors. They used this script to translate Buddhist scriptures, compile legal codes, and write their own histories. The Tangut state was a paradox. Its ruling elite maintained a distinct cultural identity, resisting full assimilation into Chinese culture. Their founder, Li Yuanhao, even mandated traditional hairstyles and clothing to reinforce Tangut identity. Yet they also masterfully adopted and adapted the bureaucratic and military technologies of their neighbors. Their army was a sophisticated, integrated force of cavalry, archers, infantry, and early gunpowder weapons, with iron bombards sometimes carried on camelback for mobility. They were a Buddhist kingdom, but their beliefs were blended with their own shamanistic traditions. They were fierce warriors, but also gifted diplomats, navigating the treacherous political landscape by balancing relationships with the powerful Liao, Song, and Jin dynasties. For nearly 2 centuries, the Western Xia didn't just survive, they thrived. They were a rich, proud, and powerful civilization, and they were standing directly in the path of a storm gathering on the northern steppes. That storm had a name, Temujin. The man the world would come to know as Genghis Khan was a political and military genius who, in the late 12th and early 13th centuries, achieved the unthinkable. He united the fractious, warring tribes of Mongolia into a single, disciplined, and terrifyingly effective nation. By 1206, he was proclaimed the Great Khan, ruler of all Mongols. With the steppe unified, Genghis Khan's ambition turned outward. His primary target was the immensely wealthy Jin Dynasty in northern China. But to strike the Jin, he first had to secure his flank. To his southwest lay the Western Xia, whose control of the Silk Road was a source of revenue the Mongols desperately needed for their coming wars. The Western Xia wasn't the main prize, but a necessary stepping stone. The first Mongol raids into Western Xia territory began around 1205, but in 1209, a full-scale invasion began. This was Genghis Khan's first major campaign against a settled, fortified state, and it would be a crucial learning experience. The Mongol horde swept down from the north. They were masters of mobile warfare, and they quickly overwhelmed the border garrisons. But the Tanguts were no easy conquest. They fielded a massive army of their own, with some estimates putting it at 150,000, and were themselves skilled warriors. The campaign culminated in the siege of the Western Xia capital, Zhongxing, modern-day Yinchuan. Here the Mongols' traditional strengths were nullified. The city was protected by massive walls and a huge garrison. Frustrated but endlessly inventive, Genghis Khan ordered an audacious plan. He would divert the nearby Yellow River to flood the city. His men worked for months to build a massive dike. But the plan backfired spectacularly. The dike broke, and the floodwaters inundated the Mongol camp instead of the city, forcing them to scramble for higher ground. It was a humiliating setback. Despite the failure, the damage to the area was severe, and the Tangut Emperor recognized the futility of continued resistance. In early 1210, he sued for peace. The terms were steep. The emperor had to give a daughter in marriage to Genghis Khan, pay a massive tribute, and become a vassal state of the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan accepted. The first storm had passed. For the Western Xia, it was a bitter pill, but they had survived. For the next decade, the Western Xia existed in an uneasy vassalage. They provided troops and resources for Genghis Khan's relentless campaigns, most notably his long war against the Jin Dynasty. But the relationship was strained. The Tangut court was filled with factions who resented Mongol dominance. The breaking point came in 1219. Genghis Khan was preparing for one of his most famous campaigns, the invasion of the Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia. As was his right, he summoned troops from his vassal, the Western Xia. This time, the Tangut court, led by a general named Erasure, refused. The message they sent back was dripping with contempt. They essentially told the great Khan that if he had so few troops that he needed their help, then he had no business claiming supreme power. It was a staggering miscalculation. It was an act of open rebellion and a deep personal betrayal to Genghis Khan, who valued loyalty above all else. Infuriated, Genghis swore an oath of vengeance. But the Khwarezmian campaign was imminent. He couldn't turn back now. He noted the betrayal, a debt to be collected later, with interest. He reportedly told his commanders, "When one lets oneself be addressed so boastfully, how can one withdraw? Even if we die, let us challenge their boasts. Eternal heaven, you be the judge." With that cold promise hanging in the air, he turned his armies west and unleashed a firestorm on Central Asia. For years, as the Mongols toppled the Khwarezmian Empire, the Western Xia existed on borrowed time. They even tried to form an alliance with the Jin and Song dynasties, hoping to create a united front against the Mongols' eventual return. But their defiance had sealed their fate. When Genghis Khan finally returned from his western campaign in 1225, he was an old man, but his anger hadn't cooled. It had hardened into an icy resolve. He would now personally lead his armies to collect the debt owed by the Western Xia. This wouldn't be a campaign of subjugation. It would be a campaign of extermination. In 1225, Genghis Khan gathered a massive force of approximately 180,000 soldiers and descended upon the Western Xia. This was not the same Mongol army that had bungled the siege of Zhongxing 16 years prior. They now possessed a sophisticated siege train with Chinese and Persian engineers, catapults, and other siege weapons. What followed was not war in a conventional sense, it was a systematic erasure. Enraged by the Tanguts' defiance, Genghis ordered his generals to annihilate city after city. This was a scorched earth policy of unimaginable cruelty. While cities that surrendered peacefully might have been spared in other campaigns, that restraint was rarely seen here. The campaign began with the capture of the fortress city of Khara-Khoto in 1226. The Mongols then advanced southward, capturing key cities. The Tanguts, facing their own extinction, mounted a desperate, massive counterattack. In late 1226, they gathered an army that some sources claim, almost certainly with exaggeration, numbered over 300,000, and met the Mongols near the frozen Yellow River. It was the last great gamble of the Western Xia, and it was a catastrophe. The Mongol forces, though possibly outnumbered, were tactically superior and annihilated the Tangut army. With the Tangut field army destroyed, the path to the capital was clear. In early 1227, Genghis Khan laid siege to Yinchuan for the final time. The city held out for about 6 months. It was during this long siege, in the summer of 1227, that the unthinkable happened. Genghis Khan, the scourge of God, died. The cause remains a mystery, attributed to illness, a hunting accident, or wounds from battle. But his death didn't bring a reprieve for the doomed city. In fact, it sealed their fate in the most horrific way. From his deathbed, the great Khan gave his final, terrible order. His death was to be kept secret to ensure the campaign's completion. And when Yinchuan finally fell, the entire population was to be put to the sword. The imperial family was to be executed. The city was to be razed, and its very memory wiped from the earth. It was a dying man's curse. In September 1227, the last emperor of the Western Xia, Li Xian, known posthumously as Emperor Mo or Modi, finally surrendered, unaware that the great Khan was already dead. He was promptly executed, along with the rest of the royal family. Then the Mongol soldiers, following their dead leader's last command, descended upon the city. They mercilessly pillaged Yinchuan, slaughtered its population, and plundered the imperial tombs. The shining and sparkling kingdom of the Tanguts was extinguished. The Mongol destruction of the Western Xia was so thorough that some modern scholars debate whether it constitutes one of history's first recorded examples of attempted ethnocide or genocide. The goal was not merely conquest, but the near-complete eradication of a people and their culture. Their written records, their unique script, and their architecture, almost all of it was destroyed. The population was decimated, with survivors scattered or forcibly assimilated. For centuries, the Western Xia were largely lost to mainstream history. Chinese dynastic records, like the famous 24 Histories, never granted them their own dedicated official chapter, relegating them to annexes in the histories of other dynasties. They became a phantom, a footnote in the story of their conquerors. Their complex script became an indecipherable curiosity. Genghis Khan's final order had been chillingly successful. But history has a way of holding on to its secrets. The real breakthrough came at the dawn of the 20th century. In 1908, a Russian explorer named Pyotr Kozlov was excavating the ruins of a desert city called Khara-Khoto, one of the first centers destroyed by Genghis Khan. Buried in the sand beneath a stupa, Kozlov and his team unearthed a treasure trove, a library of thousands of scrolls, most written in the lost Tangut script. Among the finds was a Tangut Chinese glossary, the key that would function like a Rosetta Stone, eventually allowing scholars to unlock the secrets of the Tangut language. Suddenly, a lost civilization began to speak again. Through decades of painstaking work, historians and linguists have slowly pieced together the story of the Western Xia. We can now read their laws, their poetry, and their Buddhist texts. Archaeologists have explored the ruins of their cities and their magnificent imperial tombs near the Helan Mountains, which were inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in July 2025. What has emerged from the dust is the image of a sophisticated, resilient, and unique civilization. They are no longer just a casualty of the Mongol conquests, but a culture worthy of study in their own right. The story of the Western Xia is a haunting lesson in the fragility of civilization. It shows how a vibrant, powerful society that flourished for 2 centuries could be brought to ruin by the vengeful will of a single person. Genghis Khan built one of the largest empires in world history, but his legacy is forever marked by this final act of destruction. He didn't just conquer the Tangut Kingdom, he tried to delete it from human memory. And for a long time, he nearly succeeded. The silence that followed the fall of the Western Xia lasted for more than 600 years. It's a chilling reminder that our knowledge of the past is often incomplete, shaped by conquest and selective memory. The Tanguts are a ghost of the Silk Road, a powerful testament to the fact that history is full of stories we were never meant to uncover. Their rediscovery begs the question, how many other empires still lie buried, waiting for their voice to be heard again? If you found this journey into a lost history compelling, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories erased from the pages of time. Let us